What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been like over a year since I've shown my face on here, so I figured we'd kick it back to a kind of old school video. Today I'm going to go over what I think are the best beginner reptiles. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so first we'll go over my top 3 snakes, then we'll go over top 3 lizards, and I also have an amphibian and a spider selection for you guys. So now let's really get into it. Alright, so first off with the snakes, my selection is a pretty basic one. It's going to be ball pythons. Obviously, they're amazing animals. They're very easy to care for. They're typically extremely docile. They get a good size. This is a sub-adult, so he'll still get bigger, but not massive. They're just all around amazing snakes. Such good pets. If you're looking for something that's not super big, but also not really tiny, ball pythons are a great choice. Everybody recommends them. There's about a billion different care sheets and tutorials on how to give great care for these guys. And it really is not that hard. It's not that expensive. And they don't require that much room. They also come in such an insane variety of colors. They are really one of the best just beginner snakes as well as advanced snakes. Gotta love the ball pythons. But we will move on. All right, and so for the next selection, we've got, hold on, wait, what is that behind you? Hold on. No way. No way. It's the next snake selection. A corn snake. Yes, the next snake selection is going to be a corn snake. Another pretty basic one. I'm sorry, I promise there are more interesting ones later on the list. These just make amazing pets. I've had corn snakes since I was super little. They also are very easy to care for. They require even, less space than a ball python technically. They're very docile. As babies, usually they're kind of rowdy. This one is a little bit, but it's actually not that bad. But as they get bigger, they typically mellow out quite a bit. These guys are just really awesome. They feed on mice. Their care requirements are pretty similar to ball pythons, honestly. They just make great pets. They also come in a crazy different amount of colors and patterns. This one, is a scaleless, so you can even get scaleless with the corn snakes, which is just insane. These guys are really amazing. Gotta love the corn snakes, gotta have them on the list. I mean, how could you not? Look at this thing. Look at it. On a little side personal note, I've always loved scaleless corn snakes. It's been a dream of mine to have one. I got this guy a few months back, and man, every time I see him and hold him, it is insane. I mean, this snake has no scales. That is crazy. Such a cool animal. I cannot wait for this guy to get to an adult size, but gotta enjoy watching him grow for sure. I don't want to waste too much time on the corn snakes and ball pythons because there's just so much about them already as far as information for you to get on how to care for them. And honestly, just so much about them in general. So we will move on now to my third and final selection for what I chose as the best beginner snakes. So the snake I chose for my third choice, I actually don't have. I'm just gonna be able to talk about. I'll throw up some pictures, I'll slide them through as I'm talking, but it's a garter snake. I know this isn't the most interesting, but it's also not the most basic, and I love them so much. I don't necessarily condone this, but I used to go out and catch garter snakes all the time when I was a kid. I'd put them in like a 20 or 40 gallon cage for a couple days, feed them, and just kind of take care of them and watch them. They are super fun animals. They're diurnal, so they move around a lot. Again, I don't advocate going out and catching these and keeping them as pets. However, when I did, I found that, they also ate earthworms, they ate slugs, they ate pinky mice, so they were just a lot of fun to have. Really, really cool snakes. And nowadays, there's so many different morphs too. I mean, all these animals, corn snakes, ball pythons, garter snakes, they all have so many different varieties and breeds and colors and patterns and all of that. It's so amazing. Really fun to look into. They're also a pretty inexpensive snake. Their care is, I would say, the easiest out of all 3 that I have just mentioned. I don't want to spend too much time here since I don't have one to show you guys. I wish I did. So we will go ahead and move along from the snake section to the lizard section. And we will start with my number 1 pick for the best beginner lizard. That's right, it's the Leopard Gecko. Another pretty basic pick, but another one that you gotta have on there for the top beginner list especially. Leopard geckos are amazing. You want to talk about an easy to care for lizard? I don't know that there is an easier to care for one than this. Really, you just need a decent sized cage, 15, 20 gallons. You could get away with a 10 if you just have one, but really you want to give them a little more space than that. The more the merrier to an extent. As far as heating requirements for these guys, you need a heat pad underneath. You don't need UVB bulbs. You don't necessarily need a heat bulb. They're very active little guys. They're very docile, super cute, come in a crazy amount of colors and patterns. So much variety when it comes to leopard geckos. If you ever wanted to get into breeding reptiles, leopard geckos are an amazing beginner for that as well. I used to breed them when I was younger for fun with some friends. I wanted to get into it actually with a pair that I have that I'll show you here in just a second. Amazing animals, very easy to care for, and very fun. And here we have what is my future breeding project. These are both raptor leopard geckos. This is a Max Snow raptor, and this is a pastel raptor. I'm very excited to see the babies that come out of this though, and I'll definitely keep you guys up to date and in tune with what happens with this. All right, so that closes out the #1 spot for best beginner lizards. We'll now move on to #2, which is one that, again, I don't have, unfortunately. Actually, both these next lizards I don't have, but I will try to move through them swiftly as well as cover them well, and obviously I'll throw a bunch of pictures throughout it. All right, so up next is a little bit of a different one. I feel like bearded dragons are always thrown into this list, and they kind of get criticism because they're not the easiest to care for. They do require a lot of extra lighting. Their diet needs to be very nice. You want to have a mixed diet for them to have a good life. It's best for them to have a lot of interaction and social time. So I figured I would kind of roll the dice with this one, and I'm gonna say #2 is blue-tongued skinks. Really skinks overall, but I think blue-tongued skinks are the coolest. I think these are a little trickier because you want to have the lighting good. You want to have a mixed diet. So it is similar to a bearded dragon as far as it's not the best or the easiest to take care of. It still isn't super hard. I'd say it's very on par with a bearded dragon. And I'd argue that maybe it's even cooler. I mean, the blue tongues on these guys are awesome. They are diurnal, so they're active in the daytime, so you can interact with them a lot. They get a pretty decent size, not too huge, but they're definitely not a small little lizard. They're big enough that usually they have a pretty good confidence to them, so they're not really skittish. They're not going to run away typically. They definitely are a bucket list lizard for me. I'd love to have one. I think they're awesome. I know that they have a pretty wide variety too in colors and mutations. And I think that they're just very awesome animals. Every time I see one, I'm like, gotta get one of those eventually. And with that, we will move on to #3 for the lizard category. So for the third and final pick for the lizard category, we have crested geckos. Another pretty common pick. However, I think that they definitely deserve to be on this list. We've kind of covered the 3 different categories of lizards in my mind. We have leopard geckos, who are kind of desert. We have the skinks, who are a little bit more tropical. And then we're gonna go geckos, who have the padded foot, way more tropical, super humid environment, a total different cage setup too. I really want to get a crested gecko. I think it would look awesome on the rack or in the room somewhere. I love the plant life that you can do with crested geckos. You can do fake plants or real plants. You can make the cage just look beautiful. You definitely can get pretty pricey with these guys if you want. You could keep it more simple too and keep the price range down a little bit. The care for these guys is a little bit harder than a leopard gecko because you want to have the humidity right and you want to have the temperatures right. But it really isn't that difficult. They're such a popular and in-demand pet that there's always a million videos you can watch and tutorials on how to take care of these guys. There's a billion also different brands of food out there. What's really awesome about these guys though also is feeding them. Since they do eat insects, but typically they are more of a fruit and vegetable eating animal, and they have all the different rapashi and different companies make different mixes for them. It's so much fun to feed them. They're so cute. Their little faces, the eyelashes, and you want to talk about different morphs and colorways. I mean, these guys, again, there are so many. They're such a popular animal that there are just a billion different varieties of them. They definitely deserve to be on this list, and that closes out the lizard category. So that's the top 3 snakes, top 3 lizards. We'll get into what I'm kind of referring to as the bonus animals, which is a frog and a spider. So I'm thinking we'll jump into going over the spider first. I have this one, so let's go ahead and get into it. This is the Brazilian black tarantula. All right, so this is him in there. He is an awesome guy. I'm not going to be taking him out today. He's my choice as the beginner tarantula because I am a beginner tarantula keeper. I've always kind of been freaked out by spiders my whole life, and it doesn't really make sense because I love reptiles. I've had scorpions. I don't have a problem with that. So there's just something about spiders that they just freak me out. I'm not gonna lie. And so, you know, I chose to get one as a way to somewhat get over this fear. I also really do think that tarantulas specifically and compared to other spiders are better and cooler. I think that like kind of the big body, they definitely can be fast, I have learned. But they are typically, you know, kind of a slower moving spider, I would think, or I would say. I think that that's cooler. They have so many different colors and patterns. Tarantulas are cool to me. Still, the kind of long-legged, quick ones, I'm not a fan. But I'm getting over it, and I'm doing so with this Brazilian black tarantula. But he is awesome, I will say. I've had him for a couple months now, and he's super cool. Watching him move around, he doesn't web up much, which kind of makes me want to get another one that does. But watching him move around and eat, and I've seen him molt one time, which was awesome, is incredible. Luckily with my setup, he doesn't need even a heat pad or anything because it stays pretty warm and humid in here already with all the reptiles. Gotta fill up the water dish whenever it goes down, take out the dead crickets so they don't mold. And other than that, there really isn't much more to it. They're just an awesome spider. And the Brazilian black in specific is also really cool because they're typically known as like the dog spider, because they're just so docile. I'm not gonna test that out, as I've said, but you know, I don't disbelieve it. The demeanor of this thing is really cool. It seems like a pretty chill animal. And finally, that brings us to my last bonus animal and the last animal of the video, which I gotta say, I'm really sorry I don't have. It's a fire-bellied toad. So I chose an amphibian for the last animal, kind of covering all the grounds. I had fire-bellied toads when I was a little kid. I had them for like 8 years. They were awesome frogs. I had them in a couple different setups. I had them for a couple years in a 20-gallon that was mainly all land with just like a couple different big water dishes throughout it for them to soak in. I had them in a half land, half water cage for a little bit. Then I had them in a mostly water with like a raised land. There's so much you can do with frogs and with setting them up, and with fire-bellied toads specifically. Their coloration is awesome. They got like the mossy green on top and then literal lava pattern on the bottom. Crazy. I never see these guys at Petco anymore. I used to see them all the time. I don't necessarily like buying from Petco. I wouldn't advocate it. I would try to find a local reptile breeder or get from a reputable one online if possible. But I do understand if you have to go to a place like Petco. And honestly, I don't know if you could even get these guys there anymore. I don't see them. I used to see them all the time when I was a kid, which is when I had them. And I'm thinking about a cage design right now. I've been thinking about it for a little while now. That involves getting some. So I might be getting these guys in the very near future. And I will definitely keep you guys posted. The care for these guys is easy. Obviously, like all frogs and toads, you know, you got to keep them moist. But if you can keep that right, the care for these guys is awesome and easy. Watching them eat is so much fun. Throwing in crickets and watching them chase them around. Mealworms, really anything is so much fun to watch these guys just interact. You can keep them in a community, so you can have quite a few of them as long as you have proper space. Just really awesome animals. Gotta love the fire-bellied toads. Potentially, man, up there with one of my favorite overall reptiles / amphibians at least that I've ever had. So that does it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's a little bit different. Don't worry, there will still be plenty reptile rap battles, reptile raps. The Lizard Laughs is the new comedy kind of series and sketch thing that I'm working on. So all those videos still to come. There will be more videos like this too. I want to kind of get in a rotation, get some weekly uploads going. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the support, and let's just make it all go up from here. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Peace.